So, the breaking news is Spurs news. Dragusin to Tottenham, Michael Bridge.
Drag is in confirmation, Mike, that Tottenham have signed their primary target, positional target, centre-half. Radu Dragusin has joined from Genoa. This has just broken with a deal that will run until 2030, and he'll wear the number 6 shirt, subject to international clearance, of course. But confirmation, Tottenham tonight have signed Radu Dragusin from Genoa. Big signing for Spurs and Ange Postecoglou.
Andy, should Spurs fans be excited?
Yeah, I think so. And I think you can look at it in two ways. One, that there's a relatively small sample size in Serie A because Genoa have only just been promoted this season, which has been very good. They've had some eye-catching results, and that's what's quickened his transfer. But I think people were always waiting for that confirmation because ever since he was a kid, when he was at Juventus, very, very fated. Giorgio Chiellini, of all people, took him under his wing there and guided him. He's sort of his mentor. They're still quite close. And advised him to go out and play football. And that's what he did in playing Serie B last season and playing very well. And because they were so good at that level, he got plenty of time on the ball. And he's someone who is now more confident of bringing the ball out. He's quick, he's great in the air, but he doesn't dive into tackles, but he wants to get towards the halfway line. And, well, that's exactly what Ange wants, right?
Is this Tottenham backing their new manager, Mark?
Absolutely. I think you have to be excited if you were a Tottenham fan because of the way that Ange Postecoglou has established himself at the football club. The first 6 months have gone brilliantly. I don't think they could have gone much better, bearing in mind they've had a number of injuries as well. They didn't recruit huge numbers in the course of the summer, which has left their powder dry to go into the window really early on in January. You have to be impressed with the business they've done. You have to look at the players that they've brought in, what type of football they're playing, and the feel-good factor around the football club. You know, you look back to the Pochettino days where there was everyone really loved the club, loved watching the team. There was a connection with the team and the players, the manager and the fans. But you get the sense this has gone to the next level with Ange Postecoglou. The board clearly backing the manager, and they've got this new style of football as well, which is hugely exciting. And it feels like the start of something special. And when you bring in young players that fit the profile of what Tottenham are trying to do, you have to remember that Radu is only 21 years old. He's not even started in the game, and he's got so much more progression and development to come. He's an exciting player who'd been watched by a number of sides. You have to remember he had the option to join Bayern Munich, 33 times Bundesliga champions, 6 times Champions League winners. And he's decided to come to the Premier League and to come to North London. I think that's a massive statement from the player himself and an even bigger one from Tottenham.
Michael, so he didn't go to Bayern Munich. Eric Dyer is in Bayern to sign for Bayern Munich, and in Munich to sign for Bayern. How canny have Spurs been so far in this window?
Unbelievably, because if we go back to the Dragusin deal, the player sent back from Leeds to Tottenham last week was Jed Spence. And we reported that we understand he doesn't have a future at Tottenham Hotspur. Where's he gone? Genoa. You know, and it's not easy to persuade youngsters or any player. Can you, how do you fancy Genoa? He was on loan in France last year. He had a loan at Leeds. These aren't necessarily development loans. These are probably not part of my plan loans. It's not easy for these players. So for Tottenham to do that, then they've beaten Bayern Munich to the signature of Radu Dragusin, and then Bayern have come back in and said, well, is Eric Dyer still for sale? Yes, he is. Can we have him? Yes, you can. It's been an unbelievable few days for Tottenham Hotspur. It really has. And it feels like a little saga for me in terms of this Dragusin deal because of interest in Napoli. We reported last week, but we also said that Spurs weren't concerned with that. There was probably a few concerns when Bayern came in. And I know a few on social media were like, oh, they've got Harry Kane and they're going to get Dragusin now. And what we're reading now, Dragusin stuck to his words, stuck to his guns, was excited to go to play in the Premier League. Spurs have got him, and then they'll part with Eric Dyer on fantastic terms, a player who's had nearly 10 years, great service at Tottenham Hotspur. It's been an excellent few days for Spurs, without any shadow of a doubt. Andy Brassel, what do you make of Spurs' business so far?
Really good, and really early as well. I mean, I think you look at the Dragusin deal, and it's good for him, I think, because I think he'll get more of a better way of progressing at Tottenham, because the thing is, Bayern have been a bit of a defensive mess for a while, and to get a 21-year-old and go, OK, fix it, I think is a bit much, really. I think that would be a pretty stiff learning curve. Whereas if you think you've already got Romero, Van der Ven, and it takes pressure off both Van der Ven and Dragusin, I think. Maybe they could play together eventually. I think, ideally, you probably want to play Dragusin or Van der Ven for the moment, because they're that not dive-in kind of defender. And I'm not saying what Christian Romero's like, but he's a little bit different, let's put it that way. But as far as Eric Dyer goes, I think it's a little bit like Davinson Sanchez going. OK, he didn't have the best time over the last year and a half at Spurs. Galatasaray are very pleased with Davinson Sanchez so far, looked the part in the Champions League as well. And I think Eric Dyer is exactly what Bayern have been looking for months. Of course, they couldn't get João Palhinha over the line, and that's going to be a very difficult deal to broker in this January. So he can play defensive midfield, he can be reinforcement at centre-back, and, he's got so many legs around him, he doesn't need to move like lightning. I think he's exactly what they're after, and maybe, just maybe, it could help him get back towards the England squad.
Here's a very interesting one as well, Mike. So if over the last few weeks, Spurs have had Emerson Royale and Ben Davies at centre-half. Right back, left back. Davies has done ever so well, but I think he might have a hamstring problem, which Ange Postecoglou will confirm tomorrow. That's the bad news. The good news, he might have Dragusin, he might have Van der Ven back, and he might just have Christian Romero back for Sunday's match against Manchester United. Okay. So he might have all three. Big boost when he's been without Van der Ven. What signing he's been, Andy?
Yeah, it's been great.
And for Romero, potentially, that's not confirmed. We'll wait for Ange Postecoglou's presser tomorrow.
All right.
But that's big news.
So who starts? Blimey, stop talking.
Well, look, do you know what? It's for the first time he will have an option, Ange Postecoglou. But, of course, they're both hamstring injuries with Romero and Van der Ven. Got to be extremely careful. Dragusin, throwing him in at Old Trafford. It's going to be a great atmosphere. I think Sir Jim Ratcliffe's going to be there. It's going to be a big atmosphere Sunday. Am I going? Yes. But, so it's going to be a big game. It's down to Ange Postecoglou. But what we do know, Mike, he does throw the players straight in. Some managers don't. Brentford, he threw Mickey Van der Ven in with 1 day's training and was excellent.
Go on, Mike.
I was just going to say, look at this business that Tottenham have done early in the window. How much stronger are they for the game against Manchester United than they would have been if they hadn't have done Timo Werner and Radu Dragusin? They go into that game, and this is, again, they get the business done early in the window, and it means they've got players for big games in January. And that makes a massive difference. So, they don't have to wait until midway through February before the players get up to speed and up to scratch and get settled. Chuck them straight in and they can affect games now. And that shows the sign of good business in the window.
So are Tottenham done now in this window, Michael?
It wouldn't massively surprise me. We'll wait and see what transpires over the next few weeks, because things can change, maybe 1 or 2 outgoings here and there. Pierre-Emile Højbjerg's future is still up in the air a little bit, but with Pape Sarr and Yves Bissouma away on international duty, I'm not so sure they'd be too quick to sell him. So we'll just wait and see. But I'll flip it round. They're not going to wait till deadline day. Ange Postecoglou's key target, he wanted a top-class centre-half in as early as possible. They've got him. They've also got Timo Werner, a man with a lot to prove and potentially a more than able backup for Heung-min Son, who could be away for at least a month on Asian Cup duty. I think Spurs fans should be very happy this evening.
Quickly, Andy, what do you make of Werner coming back to the Premier League?
I think it's a no-lose for Tottenham, really. He's someone who, even when he's not scoring goals, we saw at Chelsea, he contributes to the team. He's not a dead weight when he's not scoring goals. He's just not had the opportunity at Leipzig this season, really. He wants to play. He's desperate to get in the Germany squad for Euro 2024. And if it goes even halfway well, surely Spurs are going to take up the option at that price.